Another big SNES game that came out that year was Final Fantasy III.
Yeah. Or 6, depending on where you picked it up.
Well, right, that's the thing, right? Like,
confusing
famously,
everything
this game was known as Final Fantasy III in the United States for years because Final Fantasy came out in America and Final Fantasy II came out in America, but, well, two was 4. So right now,
numbers.
Yeah, now
numbers.
it's happening to me too.
Yeah.
But it was the 3rd Final Fantasy game to come out in the United States, even though it was the 6th overall. So they called it Final Fantasy III, and then wouldn't reconcile that until 7 came out. But,
this was one of those. Like there was a lot of JRPGs earlier on.
It was really the golden age. I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah, earlier on in the SNES, but this was the one. This sort of ushered in that this was pre-Chrono Trigger, and it ushered in that sort of the maturing of the 16-bit RPG.
Yeah.
I mean, this game begins with this gorgeous, it's not a cutscene, but it's this gorgeous, a non-playable cinematic where you have and there's credits, and you're like, oh, this is like something that's being presented to me. This isn't just a thing that I turn on and randomly start playing.
You get this fantastic
Like there's an
prologue and
actual
the
narrative to it.
music. And
Amazing prologue, amazing settings, just like a phenomenal cast of characters. Arguably the best cast in Final Fantasy history.
Yeah, I never actually done the math until I was doing research for this show. This has the most playable 14 main characters, 14 main party members.
Yeah, some of them are optional. Some of them sort of leave and enter your party at different times. Your party gets split up, and the game is gorgeous. The music is it's one of Uematsu's absolute best scores. All of Amano's art, which we have featured back there. He's sort of at the top of his game then.
The Lion King.
The Lion King. When Andy Dufresne got out of prison, that was great. Yeah, and there's these super iconic moments that are among the most iconic moments in JRPG history. With early on Kefka poisoning the well.
Yeah.
And then literally, spoilers, but you get halfway, 2/3 through the game, and the bad guy wins. He just destroys the world.
I mean, how mind-blowing is this for a 16-bit RPG that basically the villain wins and destroys the world, and the ending of the game is kind of happy, but it's very sort of bittersweet.
Well, I actually remember my friend was playing this for such a long time, and I mean, it was the same with Super Metroid, but I'd watch him here and there, and I remember Moogles would come out and they'd dance. I'd be like, hey, look at those little guys, this is pretty great. And then there'd be these amazing power moves that you'd get kind of later on, and it would be like, wow, look at that gradient and those different colored things now. And when he actually beat the game, it was during his parents' 4th of July barbecue, and everybody, all of our friends were grouped around the TV, and we were like, whoa! This is the end of a movie. This is this massive finale.
Yeah.
And,
It also has one of the greatest moments in RPG history, which is you have a character named Sabine, and he can suplex things, and you fight a train at one point. And he can suplex that train. He can suplex that entire spooky train.
Suplex the Train would be a good name for a mobile game.
Also worth noting, this was the first Final Fantasy game that went from classic kind of traditional medieval setting to kind of steampunk and sort of mixing
weird
it up.
techno robot.
Totally.
A lot of people attribute, or they give Final Fantasy VII some of that credit, but it really is 6 that moves things. There's chainsaws in that game.
Mech armor.
Yeah, I believe Leonardo actually invented mech armor.
Is that true?
He used it to kill a horse.
that horse is no longer alive. And then you have the opera
kill
scene
horses,
too, which
man.
people always talk about.
Yeah, that opera
that
scene.
amazing opera scene.
I think it's interesting that that game came out on the SNES, then got ported to the PS1, and got ported to GBA. But there's really not been. Each of those versions kind of had some trouble. The PS1 had they would improve some things and be 2 steps forward and 1 step back. PS1 had incredible CG scenes, but had loading times just stuck in the middle.
Yep.
The GBA version had some sound problems.
Had Bort sound,
but it had extra bosses and stuff. And so now,
the mobile version's hot trash.
how many years later? Over 20 years later, and we still don't really have
the definitive. Unless you still have a cart and a SNES hooked up.
Yeah, for sure.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
It's also, in addition to sort of the name being changed, which, I understand why they did it at the time, but it seems a little quaint now. The world just wasn't as global of a place. So, we got to call it Final Fantasy III, but the US version was also sort of famously censored.
I didn't know this until you were reading it.
So they changed the holy spell to Pearl, and there was actually a lot of the sprites had some nudity in them that they took out. Some of the more overt, there was playful sexuality in it. It was more adult. They were these characters acted more like real people, and they stripped all of that out of the SNES version.
I mean, that's so funny because that's what I remember encountering in 7 and being like, whoa, I'm cross-dressing, go on dates and stuff. That's cool, and it's I didn't know that was ever something that was taken out.
So I mean, this was such a fantastic year for the SNES.
A final fantastic year.
Whoa! no.
Yes.
You just leave.
Done. Next, we have 10 more topics.
Table.
Come back.